Good afternoon, everybody. Very, very warm welcome on behalf of the Climate Hub Davos, organization behind it, Green Up. We've created this space in order for collaboration to take place for the planet, for ourselves, for the future. And this OpenPlanet is one of the really special projects that we're very happy that is going to be presented here today, because it's an example of what we need for storytelling for our future. So feel welcome in our space. It's open still today and tomorrow until 5 to co-create, to make an impact together going forward for climate and nature. So thank you very much. And now I'll hand over to Johnny.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. So my name is Johnny Hughes. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I've been doing it for about 25 years. And you might be able to tell from my accent that I come from Britain, and I'm based in Bristol, over in the West Country, which is within the TV world is called the Green Hollywood. We make all the big natural history films. So I work with David Attenborough quite a lot, and we make things like Our Planet for Netflix, Planet Earth for BBC, and then elsewhere around the world. And so, you know, my tradition, my heritage is in those big natural history big series, and they get the privilege of reaching an awful lot of members of the audience. They have audiences about the size of the big dramas out there, and they're kind of the only factual content that can rival those big dramas. So Our Planet on Netflix, there are no official figures, but there are people out there that hack Netflix and try and work it out, and we reckon it's been seen by about 300 million people already globally, and it's been out there a few years. It's actually also on YouTube. People can watch it without paying for Netflix too. During COVID, they put it on YouTube, which I thought was a good act. But we have this tradition of getting big audiences and showing them the wonders of the natural world. At Silverback a few years ago, we decided that we had to go further than that. We couldn't just do that. We needed to talk about the environment and the planet in a much more overt sense. It was kind of our duty. And because we were lucky enough to have those kinds of audiences, we had to find a way to deliver that kind of messaging to that size of audience. And it's quite a tricky job. We're not alone. There's lots of people out there that for various reasons have got to talk about the planet. And there's been an issue until now, which is that big productions like the ones I make, they're paid for by commissioners at TV channels. They pay a lot of money for it. And so when they're made, all the footage from those series is kind of locked away in a library that you have to find access to and you have to pay for. And during Our Planet, in fact, which we did with Netflix and also WWF, I worked alongside a guy called Colin Butfield, and he was Director of Communications at WWF, and he expressed the issue that even a big NGO like WWF can't really afford the commercial rates for the footage that they need to make films to get people to consider the issues at large with the planet. And certainly the smaller NGOs, other people like scientists when they're doing a talk, educators, everyday folk, because these days, of course, video is king on social media, on wherever you are, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever it is. Video is the powerful medium to tell stories from everyone. But getting hold, first of all, accessing those shots and then paying for those shots is just prohibitive. So there's been a real problem around for quite a long time. We need the world to communicate about the environment, and the most powerful way to do it is through video, and yet that video is just too expensive or locked away. Or if you want to use it, which a lot of people do, they hack it off various sources. You're breaking the law, and somebody might come after you. So there has been a problem, and my colleague Colin at WWF at the time kind of voiced that. And Colin and I came together to create a wing of Silverback Films where we work, really to make impact films, but also to try and crack this problem for everyone. We wanted to open up and free up the access of amazing footage, because it's really powerful imagery from around the world, so that anyone could use it as long as it was for non-commercial means, and therefore sort of enable anyone on Earth to make films about the planet for their own audiences in their own languages, all that sort of thing. So pretty much day one of forming this new startup, this new wing, we kind of realized that no matter how successful we were, we would not make enough films to save the world. So, you know, unlocking the door was actually priority number one. And we spent a couple of years working on something that we called OpenPlanet. And eventually this year, it has become an entity of its own. And Emily, who's our she's director of operations there, we'll talk more about how it works in a second. But we're going to start with a little kind of sizzle film, a teaser film, which expresses a little bit of what I've just explained, but also shows you some of the imagery that we're trying to unlock for people to use. So can we run that first film, please? Oh, there's a clicker. This button.
Thank you. Can we put the lights back up? So thank you so much to you all for coming. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here and learn all about OpenPlanet. As Johnny said, we've now launched the platform, which is super exciting. We did a kind of soft launch at UNGA at the end of last year to a really positive reception, because all everybody's talking about at those forums at the moment is the power of storytelling and how important it is to multiply the number of stories that are being told about our changing planet and about the crisis that we're facing. And the platform's now live in its beta version. We've already got over 5,000 clips on the site, which are accessible to anyone to download and use and make films from for impact and educational use. And a lot of that footage is coming from the relationship we have with Silverback Films, as Johnny said, who have got incredible back catalogue of material for us to access. And as any of you know that are involved in making content, if you're making a documentary, only a very small percentage of the footage that you shoot ends up in the final film. So there's all this incredible footage that's been shot that has never been used, and we're really trying to unlock that and make it available to people. And we've been really lucky that a lot of the broadcasters and streamers that work with Silverback and other production companies we're talking to have given us the permission to be able to make that material available to a wider audience. So it's a very exciting time. The material isn't just coming from Silverback, though. We're also talking to filmmakers and production companies all over the world about contributing their material to OpenPlanet. And we've got about 50 partners already on board and growing. And we're also capturing content. We want the site to be reflective of what's happening now as our planet changes. So We're thinking about, where we need to go and film, where things are happening around the world, but also making connections with filmmakers all over the world who are best placed in those locations to record the changes as they happen. As we said, we've got over 5,000 clips on there already, which I think already makes us one of the biggest open access footage libraries that there are. But we've got an incredible amount of footage that we're working away. We have a team based in Bristol who are working away, clipping that content and uploading it to the platform. And for us, this is a really exciting time because we just don't know how people are going to use the platform in the future. We really want people to use it in ways which are exciting and surprising to us. And we've already seen various organisations and partners that we work with using it effectively. But we're really excited to talk to all of you today about what you think about the platform and how you might use it. So Johnny's going to talk a little bit about how that's working now and some of the partners that we've been working with.
Thank you. I'm back up. I can tell you how we're using it. So we're, as I say, a production company. We got approached quite a lot over the years for a favour, to make a short film for a G20 or to make a sort of primer to kick off a discussion at a COP or something like that. And of course, you want to say yes to those things. But when we had to pay for the footage, it was quite expensive, even doing a five-minute film. Now that we don't, we've sort of opened up the opportunities for us to just say, yeah, sure. And all you're going to have to pay for is a sort of edit time, really, the post, to get this done to a standard that suits, depending on what they're doing. So, immediately, this was only really practical from about September this year. So we made a load of stuff for New York Climate Week for various parties. So, for example, I was down at the New York Stock Exchange where they launched a new initiative to help banks and other big asset managers understand the risks they face, as they would call it, but for us, the impacts that their investments actually create. That's a really healthy, amazing kind of intergovernmental initiative, and they wanted a launch platform, and we basically put the imagery of the natural world all the way through the New York Stock Exchange, on all the screens that normally carry the share values and things. It was fantastic, and honestly, all the bankers and traders and everything were there, and it was an exciting atmosphere. So we did loads for that week. We did lots for COP in Dubai. We've done quite a few films for WEF, actually. They're being shown in various corridors around WEF because, as I've said before, video is powerful. People stop and watch it and they listen. So, I mean, other people that we've been working with, the Wellcome Trust, want climate and health to be a bigger part of the conversation. So we've been doing shoots for them. And this is the important point really, I suppose, with the same shots, we can make lots of different films for different people. So we've been making them for really sort of small NGOs that are involved in that. And say we shot in Kenya for that particular story. So some local Kenyan NGOs, but then also the big ones like One, for example, we gave them some films as well, with Wellcome's help. So UNEP we're working with as well. It's just sort of opening up, and who knows where it'll go. I'm going to just show you one of them as just an example, really, of something that we can turn around in a few days, because we've got OpenPlanet, because everyone's got OpenPlanet. And this was for University of Exeter, who are actually hosting something up at the top of the hill tonight. At the Arctic Base Camp. But this is about their tipping points, essentially, and it's just a public information film, really. But whereas before this might have cost £40,000 to make, it doesn't now because of the library that we have. Okay, I've not done that right.
India.
I've jumped. Okay, brilliant.
moment in history in which I have a stake in the future of the planet.
Thank you. Thank you to University of Exeter who come to see us today. Thank you, Garth. We're really excited to be part of the Tipping Points report. It's so important, that work. And obviously these occasions, like Davos, like UNGA, like the COPs, are a great opportunity to be showing and doing storytelling to engage these audiences and decision makers and really engage them emotionally in the discussion and the conversation. And G20 is also a great opportunity to do that. And we were lucky enough to be able to do and collaborate with Tamsil Hussain last year on a big project in India for the G20 there. And Tamsil's very kindly joined us today and is going to tell us a little bit about that project and about the incredible impact it had.
Double click. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Emily. First of all, it's amazing to be at Davos. It's actually my first time. I run a platform in India, which works in 22 different countries with 250,000 people who can tell amazing stories, not just using their mobile phones, but using cameras, using different things for different kinds of screens. And it truly decentralizes the way people tell some of the most compelling content on screens. So this could be fiction, this could be documentaries, this could be short form. And last year, I was fortunate enough to partner with Silverback Studio, OpenPlanet, to create something that definitely changed the way India's narrative on climate was actually shared across the world. And India, being a country which has got billions and billions of people and so many amazing solutions. And what really the world hears about India is usually the negative parts of climate change and stuff. And we use the power of positive storytelling and created various stories for OTT, which is GeoCinema, which is a film that is live called This is Planet India. We worked with 20 of the most amazing creators who literally shared stories on innovators that were covered by Planet India on social media. And it inspired people to share their own stories. So you would imagine a small vegetable vendor in a small city in India creating his own Planet India story using the most amazing footage OpenPlanet has. And you know, when we started it, we had this beautiful, beautiful vision, all of us, saying that we're going to have this amazing goal to reach out to 200 million people. And that should be enough to change the narrative. Can anyone guess how much did we actually do in 3 weeks? It's India, the world's largest population. 400 million people. And that's the power of a storytelling campaign that's positive, data-driven, uses people first. And what's the most amazing part? The whole footage was available for anyone and everyone to download and tell their own story. And I'm very excited to show you the impact of that film, because it was shown in COP28, UNGA, across different screens. And double click.
India pulses with life. The world's most populous country and fastest growing major economy. Home to nearly 10% of the world's wild species. Where we place our relationship with nature at the heart of our culture. But now, India is on the front line of climate change. And Indians have no choice but to respond. We are responding with ingenuity, with urgency, with our hearts and minds. Planet India is the story of this critical moment. A story of how adversity can be met with creativity and how challenges can create opportunities. The story of a new generation of Indians who are leading the way, protecting wildlife and communities, our economy and our planet. From the world's leading environmental filmmakers and India's top creative talent, this first of its kind campaign has reached over 400 million people across India and the world. Launched in New Delhi alongside the G20 summit, Planet India reimagines the way we tell stories about the planet, celebrates India's potential, and shows the world how we can build a future for people and nature. We've only just begun.
Can I get an applause for all? Last year at Davos, I think you had one Indian pavilion. This year, we have a street, which means the world is definitely looking at India for solutions. And Planet India made that little attempt. But this is just the beginning, right? Because this year and going forward, campaigns like this and using the power of OpenPlanet, the world, not just filmmakers, storytellers, but people themselves can tell positive stories and make sure the storytelling is not inaccessible. It's accessible for everyone. And you know what the power of storytelling is, right? Action. It can lead to policy change. I mean, on Plug TV, we have one of the storytellers who's been able to get Burger King in India to go plastic-free by just telling stories. Nothing else. It's humongous. And I want to share a little story with you because we talk about creators, right? The world is full of creator economies. And we've seen all kinds of footage here, right? This one's a little different. It comes from a creator called KK Create, and she's got millions and millions of followers in India, and her story is so beautiful. And she tells about how she used that footage on OpenPlanet.
Hello! Hi! By giving us high quality footage. Cool. Okay, 1, 2, 3, start. I think everyone knows by now that I love telling stories of India. And as you can see, a lot goes into making a video for my platform. From research to execution, so many elements are involved. Especially because most of my videos are dependent on finding the right visuals to support what I'm saying. After all, painting a visual picture makes it easier to understand and connect with any story. But when it comes to finding the right footage of high quality and scientific accuracy, the struggle is real. Correction, the struggle was real. Thanks to OpenPlanet, this difficulty is now a thing of the past. OpenPlanet is giving creators like me who want to tell the story of our changing planet access to some world-class, quality visuals from across the world, with over 1,000 clips from India already freely available to use. Like this one, and this one, and my favorite, this one. All you have to do is sign up, sign in, and begin your search. Here are my favorite features on OpenPlanet. I love that I can explore pre-made collections of incredible content and make my own. So for my bamboo story, I just went to the collection Best of India to narrow down my search and use the keyword bamboo to find relevant content. When it comes to choosing the content I want to use, I simply add my favorite clips to my own collection, move all the clips to my basket, select how I want to use the content and proceed to download. I'll then receive an email when my files are ready to use. There are a few more things I love on OpenPlanet. I can also name my collection like this. And if I want additional clips to support my story, I can simply click Explore More to find related assets. What I also love is this filter option to browse right here. For instance, I just added the filters Climate and India, and now I'm free to browse relevant clips for my video story. See, I didn't have to tweak my story because I couldn't find the right visual or worry about whether the visuals are of good quality or not. A simple search on OpenPlanet did the trick, providing me the tools I needed to tell my story. The best part is there is no subscription or payment of any kind required. OpenPlanet is accessible to everyone, everywhere, and absolutely free of cost for educational and impactful storytelling. Now, this is the kind of support we need to help tell our stories. So what are you waiting for? If you have a climate story to tell or want to find inspiration for your next one, it's never been easier. Visit openplanet.org to start your story.
Just before, thank you. I love her shirt. She's so amazing with the content. Really, really cool. I think her Planet India video got 5 million views, if I'm not wrong. Just hers. Like, it was unbelievable. And this is the power that I'm talking about. This year, we're going to see, and we might see, Planet Brazil, Planet Southeast Asia, so many things across the world. If you want to watch any of the Planet India films, they're obviously, and if you're from India, you can watch it on JioCinema, which is the largest platform, like 400 million concurrent viewers that are there, which is on live there. But also on Plug TV, you can see a lot of the films that are there, which makes it accessible for the world. And with that, I would like to hand over to Johnny. Okay, great. Emily.
Thank you so much, Tamsil. Really appreciate you coming and talking to us about that. And yeah, I mean, KK's amazing doing that video without any prompting from us, which is fantastic. But to say that we are actually working on a new design for the site at the moment, which will launch later on in the spring, to make the site more intuitive to use, more straightforward to use for anyone. Because we really want this to be accessible for school children as much as people who are experienced documentary makers. So we're really, really excited to launch that to the wider public a bit later in the year. So I think we're going to have a little Q&A session now, and we'd love to hear your questions and your reactions and anything you'd like to ask.
Who's got first questions?
Yeah, has anyone got any questions at all for either Planet India or about Silverback or about OpenPlanet?
How you found...
There's a mic coming, I think.
So can you tell us more about the story of Plug TV, your kind of platform you founded back in?
So Plug TV basically works with different individuals who can become storytellers, who can actually add value to campaigns and platforms like OpenPlanet, Silverback Studio, who basically to bridge the gap between the 99% and 1%, right? How do you make sure that more and more people can tell powerful stories? And now that you have OpenPlanet, it makes it easier for us to tell those stories as well. It started about 6 years ago, and now we're scaling to more and more screens. Yeah.
I think what's so important and what Planet India shows is that context is everything, and it's really important to work with filmmakers in each country, in each location, who are speaking to their own audiences, because they will have a completely different approach and framing than somebody from the UK. So that's really essential, I think, to how people are using OpenPlanet. And Planet India gives us an incredible template to then be talking to other countries and other events about doing another campaign. The resulting films, there were 10 films, weren't there, about different climate solutions across the country. and the films are really fantastic to see. And we filmed a huge amount of footage across India for that campaign. And what was another really important aspect of that campaign is setting a style guide for that capture, so that the footage is all shot in such a way that it's very easy for then other people to take and cut it together. So all the interviews were shot in a similar way. We had GVs and shots that were filmed similarly, and makes it much easier for people to then build it into sequences for their films.
I think if I'm like, Johnny, also I have a question, right? Like during the shoot, there was like the crew itself was going through a lot of climate crisis situations, right? Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's worth saying that virtually all of the shots that we captured during the Planet India project, which was all done last year, I mean, it was all very quick, were done by Indian crews. They were remote crews in India, local crews. So that's why the style guide was important. But you're right, there were a lot of stories of getting trapped because of the landslides that you probably saw pictures of there, and monsoon rain being unseasonal, and there were lots of issues. So it was genuine. And there was a lot of sort of real life filming going on, I suppose, on top of the 10 stories that we knew that we wanted to tell. And what was kind of freeing was that there was not really any end product to go for, to target. We were asking people who love filming to go out there and film what looks impactful, what looks beautiful, spectacular. Just film India, and we'll collect all the shots together, and then we'll offer it up to India, and now, of course, the rest of the world, and see what they make of it. So the total freedom. I think at first they didn't quite understand it, but eventually it became a real passion project for them, because they could do what they wanted to do rather than what they've been told to do. So big success.
So first of all, congratulations. It's really, really, really inspiring, and I look at it this evening and hopefully can use some. I'm not really good at filmmaking, but I have a lot of stories to tell, and this looks like a wonderful resource. Maybe 2 questions. Is there any curation at all? Because you have your aim that it should be about impact and climate. Does anybody check that, or do you leave that up to the communities, or some sort of rating system? And my second question, with all of these wonderful projects, is there a business model? Will this work also on a bigger scale? Are you funded by foundations, or are you really relying on the power of people participating? Be very curious about that.
Shall I take that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Both really, really good questions. In terms of the of kind of monitoring how people are using the content, which is sort of essentially what I think you're asking. So the power of OpenPlanet, I think, is in the partnerships that we form. So we're actively seeking content partnerships and people who we want to work with and who want to work with us to create content. I think we made quite a clear decision not to sort of editorialize the platform and decide or tell people what they should be telling stories about. But we do create collections for people. So, we're saying these are the collections we have on different issue areas. We did a big collection around the tipping points, both positive and negative, to accompany Tim Lenton's report with the University of Exeter. So we are trying to kind of find those moments to inspire people. And I think as we go forward, we're going to have more and more interviews on the site, which won't necessarily be available for people to download, but will provide greater context to some of the issues that we are hoping people will tell stories about and inform those discussions. We also have a really exciting partnership with the Earth Time platform through the Create Lab at Carnegie Mellon University, who do these incredible data visualizations using huge data sets around, kind of where wildfires are happening, or movements of population, or temperature change. And we're creating video clips of those and putting them on the platform as well. So we're really trying to give people all of the tools that they need in order to be able to shape the conversation, but we're not trying to drive the conversation. Now, we will, to a certain extent, try and monitor how people are using OpenPlanet, and we're tracking that because, A, we want to see what impact we're having, And we're working on developing a kind of approach to that, like, because one of the big, important things for us is what is our impact and how are we helping drive the narrative change that we seek. So that's a really important aspect of it. And we will also kind of police it to the extent that we can with our small team. In terms of the revenue model, it's a few different things. So we were lucky enough to get seed investment from a handful of interested parties and philanthropists who really loved the idea of OpenPlanet. And we're now seeking that next stage of kind of strategic funding partnerships, people that want to come on board and support us. We're working and having conversations with various organisations along those lines, which is exciting. There is a commercial library aspect to the platform. So if people do want to use the material for commercial programming, if they're making a program for a broadcaster or they're a business wanting to create corporate films, then they can do. They just pay a commercial rate for that footage. So that's another revenue stream for us, which will grow and grow over time.
I'm Paul Srivastava. I'm the co-president of the Club of Rome and also a professor at Penn State University, where we have a very big media school. Amazing project. We love it. We support open data of all kinds, not just media. And my question is about two sources of data. One is scientific expeditions to parts of the world which are difficult to get photography and media on. So Arctic expeditions and other places. There's a lot of scientific documentation available. And I'm wondering whether you are using that or have any plans to incorporate that. And the second source is satellite imagery from NASA and other sources, much of which is already free but not easily accessible, not curated like what you all showed on the platform, not as well searchable, etc. So do you all have any plans for incorporating those two sources of free data?
Well, certainly to answer the latter bit of your question, the partnership we have with Earth Time, we feel will really service that need for data visualizations and satellite imagery. So we've already got a few on there, but we're building that catalogue of material. We've started with some of the really kind of stark footage of satellite imagery of deforestation of the Amazon over time, but that's just one example of other things that we'll have. There's some amazing stuff around urbanization and all sorts of areas of kind of things which are relevant to the conversation that we're having. And then in terms of like other scientific material, we're really keen to work with different partners who have access to that footage or data. So get in touch, and anybody who owns that material who wants to contribute it to OpenPlanet can have a conversation with us if they're willing to make that freely available for impact use.
One more question. I'm curious. With all the AI production that is coming up, how do you think of protecting your material, which is what do you call it, organic or real or people powered? Is there any way? Have you a strategy in that sense to distinguish yourself from more, let's say, cheaper automated imagery?
Incredible question. I think there's a new frontier coming, isn't there? We're all trying to understand exactly what's that threat is not just for us; it's for anyone that owns any footage at all. And yeah, I think we're just going to have to work out how it changes as it changes. I think what's really important is kind of underlying your point earlier that one of the key things we wanted to get across with OpenPlanet is that every shot we say in the description underneath exactly where it was, when it was, what it shows in the most kind of objective sense, just so that you've got all the facts you need before you put it into your film. Now, as soon as AI takes control, and they can get imagery, anyone can get imagery in much more stealthier ways than going to OpenPlanet.org. So, we're not the only ones vulnerable. But I think that sort of provenance of shot is probably something that we're trying to guard, and that I guess would be part of our, our trademark, I suppose. It's pretty important.
I can add also, like from a perspective of AI right now, the big threat obviously is designers and script writers, and moving towards when the short threat comes in, I think it becomes very important where the editorial control and the new policies that should come when it comes to regulating these things, or at least distinguishing two types of content. I personally feel that's where the world will be headed towards, and you can already see the signs that are coming in. I mean, 80% of the applications we get at Plug TV are now created by AI, right? Graphic designer, CVs and stuff, and it's something you can't really fight. But I think to distinguish between the two types of content is going to be very clear, even going forward as a future, because when we look at disinformation, when we look at the harm that polarization could actually cause, it would something truly like unique platforms like OpenPlanet, Planet India, and Plug TV that really makes sure that there's a distinguish, because if we just let that content go away, then there's going to be more of that. So in that sense, yeah.
Living for myself, like for almost 2 years in India, I know the narrative, especially from the Western perspective. Is this a way to, to not follow this, also made by media, this kind of narrative? Do you want to also put a kind of an anti-media with this platform to really show how it is, and not to have this point of view which is driven by media perspective?
Just a quick answer to that. I'd just say that it all comes down to the ownership at the moment. The current state of play is that a small number of parties own shots, and they own the world's shots. NASA, which you mentioned, is quite rare in an organization that has got unique shots, of course, that just gives them away to anyone, essentially. So the ownership is the key, and what we're doing here is we're throwing away the ownership in a sense. Now, there are risks with that, which is what you're talking about, but I think it goes a long way, and hopefully others will follow as well. I hope hope we're not unique.
I think just to also, there's the idea of access to these amazing visuals, and then what the storytellers do with it. And what you see with Planet India is the power of optimism, and the power that really showcases solutions to the world, which already has changed the narrative. I mean, Jackie Shroff, who's the main Bollywood actor, who's the lead of it, people in Bollywood are now calling him Planet India, right? And when Planet India was screened in COP28, the world was able to relate to it in a very positive way, in a very different way, because the Indian climate narrative has not been told in that way. I think even when you look at NASA and the work that NASA has done on giving access to air pollution and AQI data from satellite, it completely changed the way people could really see how air pollution is happening in India. And it was not accessible. I think the team of scientists which went a little ahead and created something amazing with the data that you guys had. It was really, really cool to see that too. Yeah. So we're in a very interesting space, and these kind of storytelling campaigns is what's needed to break typical existing narratives that happen.
And also something delicious about the fact that we could release Planet India around the G20. Because what is the G20 is if it is not a stage for those dominant narratives to be reinforced. Whereas I don't think it's anti. I really don't think it's anti. I think what it is it's sharing the stage. Yeah. And then you get a lot of, anyone can come with their own particular narrative. And I mean, how many languages are there in India? They can tell them in any number of languages, and they can make films, as we've just seen, in ways that we would never have thought of doing. So, and that might be really impactful for particular audiences. So it's got to be good, surely.
Isn't the word at BEF this year collective? Collective is the keyword in a lot of this thing. It's that, right? I think it's that giving equal access and collective power in that sense, yeah.
And it's also about amplifying and multiplying, right? Because the climate crisis is a communications crisis as much as anything else. And we just need more stories to be told. And when I watched all the Planet India films, I wasn't aware of a lot of those solutions. And I'm sure lots of people weren't. So just the idea that those can be communicated to a wider audience, to amplify those so that other people can take that away to their own countries and inspire them to make change, I think is the really key thing.
You said you share information about, over here.
I can't see you. Oh, yes.
About where the clips are from, but do you also credit the filmmakers, as in of each clip?
Yes, we do. Yeah, so that's there on each clip in the metadata, and we also require in our T's and C's that anyone using that material also credits the filmmakers that have contributed the content.
And as Emily said, if those filmmakers would like to also sell their shots to commercial users, they can say yes to that too. So you could even generate income. And certainly some of the affiliates that we got during the Planet India project, that was definitely something they wanted, but they also wanted to share their shots too. So it kind of ticks both boxes.
So this idea that the more narrative, the better it's going to be for climate, I'd like to challenge that. I come from the United States, where the narrative is that half our Congress is the climate deniers. And you make these kind of powerful media shots available to everyone, you're going to get a lot of MAGA versions of climate too. And is there any kind of mechanism to prevent false narratives and conspiracy theories also being enabled by this kind of power?
Well, we're doing our best. So when you join and you register, you have to tick all sorts of disclaimers, and that is all about the truthful use of these shots. Now, we and no one is going to ever stop, as I just said, about AI. You're not going to stop people making false narratives if you wish, and those people largely don't pay for their material right now anyway. So I don't think we're making it worse. You're right that adding more narrative doesn't necessarily improve things, but I do think that enabling more voices does, especially when you look at the global south not being represented properly at all, and that area is generally where climate change is being really affected. And so I genuinely believe that kind of sharing of the stage is positive, but we're not going to be able to stop everyone misusing the material. And we kind of went into this knowing that that was the case. Anyone who produces video is in the same position, really.
It was a big concern early on, wasn't it, for us in the sort of genesis of the idea? But I don't think we've seen a lot of it yet. No. And we do monitor how people are downloading and using the footage. So, and I think the positives outweigh the negatives on balance in terms of a project like this, because it really matters who tells the story, right? So making it available to people to be able to do that is the key thing.
Hi, I'm Nafisa from Wajamama in Zanzibar. I'm curious to know, like in terms of amplification of this work, how are you planning on motivating and encouraging more visual artists from sub-Saharan Africa to basically get on this platform?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. So we're at early days and we're a small team, so we can only do so much, and really that's why I mentioned the power of partnerships for us. Wellcome Trust gave us a little bit of pilot money to do a pilot in Kenya, as Johnny mentioned earlier, which was all around climate and human health. And so that's really the first project we've done in East Africa. And we partnered with an organisation there called DocuBox, and they helped connect us with a number of content creators in Kenya. So as well as filming all this material and making a film for Wellcome, we then made that footage available and helped support Make Films, or made films for a number of other NGOs who then used that same material in their campaign. So UNEP used it, One used it, Dr. Jamila Mahmood with the Centre for Planetary Health in Malaysia used it. So it's already had a great impact. But we also invited Kenyan filmmakers to use it and tell their own story. And we're about to see those films. We're excited that they're coming through in the next week or two. So we're really keen to do that. It's just about finding and having the time and the resources to partner with people. So we'd love to talk.
I mean, there's other connections as well. So at Silverback, we work with MultiChoice, which of course you know because it's all sub-Saharan Africa. And they've got 4, I think, academies around Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So that's another kind of easy win for us, is we can show them OpenPlanet and get their students using it. And, word will spread. We haven't even done our public-facing launch yet. So this is all a bit behind the curtain at the moment. But we hope as long as this logo keeps popping up in places, it's going to get known about. And certainly, I think we've got high hopes that this year we're going to get another funding push from interested parties who have got a lot of weight and clout and can help us get out there. And they'll help us identify as well where to focus on next. So India, we did a really good job on. Brazil, of course, this year might be a good idea as well, as we were saying. But we know that we've already been talking to people about Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. So I think, it's out there. And we just have to, as you say, multiply our efforts.
We hope to see you at Zanzibar.
Thank you. I would love to go.
Amazing.
Okay, I think that might be it, Nicole. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming along. And if you've got any questions, of course, we're hanging around afterwards.
Yeah, and thank you so much to Climate Hub for having us. Really appreciate it.